So the first part here is kind of talking about bringing a UI asset from start to finish. And so we have a few assets kind of describing this process. And I don't know if you want to kind of walk us through.
Sure. So I was tasked with trying to come up with how to represent siege engines and their ammo, how much they had left, a health meter, all kinds of different things. And so I just started iterating. I threw a bunch of gray box assets out there just to kind of get my thoughts down and figure out how I wanted it to go. And I came up with the interact button, which was the little E, because that's how you'd get into it. And then it would have like this fan of bullets or some wooden stakes or whatever the projectile was. And that would be represent your ammo meter, and it would tick down as you fired it. Then you would also have the health bar around it. And so it kind of created this interesting little dynamic where the ammo was going one way and the health was going the other way. So it clearly, communicated what was going on. And you could see it. I also added some color in there, so you would represent, when the siege engine was at 50% and when it was at almost dead. So.
And the core principle here in kind of representing all of that information in one centralized location, right?
Yes.
That's very important aspect of
that
design,
instant read
right?
is very important.
Absolutely, and that's one of the great things that resonated me. Even when you were interviewing, right, is like that philosophy of keeping these things centralized and easily communicative to the player.
Yeah.
That's a very important aspect, especially for an MMORPG, because there's so many systems that are interacting with each other. And it just becomes so easy to get lost in UI.
Because it's easy to say, we'll fix it with UI and just staple stuff on there, but it just suddenly, gets very muddy very fast.
Exactly. So that's something that really spoke to me about, your capabilities as a designer from a UI perspective is to understand that aspect of it is so important, because a lot of people really don't.
Yeah.
And being able to explain a lot in a very small space, I think, is also keeping it very simplistic. I mean, we look at a lot of UI in MMOs and we're like, what is happening? As a first-time person, if you're coming into it, it can be a little overwhelming. I mean, obviously there's going to be elements that are going to be a little bit much because it is an MMO. There are a lot of systems. There are a lot of things happening all at the same time, especially when it comes to raiding and healing and things of that sort. So it's going to be an interesting tackle for all of you too.
It's true, yeah. And, my thought is I want to play our game. I don't want to play the frames.
Right, yes, exactly.
Well, some people like that. I think we even had some people asking specifically about health bars and as a healer, some people like playing that health bar game. So it's going to be a fine balance when it comes to the hybrid combat.
And I think that even in our discussions, about the understanding of how the UI for the MMORPG is going to work, right, is kind of a Russian doll theory in the sense that, initially at the face value, it's, this one piece, but you can continually open up and you have the prerogative as a player how much you want visible to you, right? But essentially it's going to be still a streamlined experience where information is easily communicated.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of modular UI.
Yes,
by that,
exactly.
do you mean the player themselves will be able to customize a lot?
Absolutely, yes. That's
I want to give the player the tools to play the game as best as possible, but I also want them to be able to make it, how they want it to. So.
And it's funny because, MMO players are very, very different across the spectrum of, what they want represented to them from an information standpoint. Some of them want to be completely immersed in the world around them, and others want to just have a tiny little window where they see the game and everything else is information.
Yeah.
That's true.
So,
which is fine. I mean, if that's how they want to play it, I'll let you play it that way.
And our designs are meant to be modular, like you were saying, so that players have that prerogative.
Which is really nice. And I think, especially from a streamer's perspective, I stream a lot, so for me, it's being able to move those elements in places where they don't cover my camera or that kind of thing, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Now we're going to go into talking about how you prototype things, and you kind of show off different layouts, and you explain how these work, and you kind of show them to Steven, and you guys walk through the process of figuring out which one you want to finalize. So we'll showcase these on the screen, and if you can walk us through what
so for this one I was working on how to represent capture points in Siege, because we want to do this thing where we put the points on the compass itself so you could see them being captured in real time and how to communicate that. And obviously the easiest way of doing it is the tried and true red and blue. We came up with red and blue icons and then have them sort of burn away or depending on what the current state of that point is. So
some transition effect.
Yeah, that was very important. And I wanted it to sort of be visceral. So my mock-up it's still gray box, so it's not exactly finished. But I kind of pinged some of the FX guys, and they were excited about burning banners. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah, it was fun. So we got I came up with a mock-up where it showed the banner sort of burning away as it was being captured, and then be unfurled. That it would be your new banner. So hopefully that gets in.
Right, and there you have a mixed representation. Both of the static location that's present with the banner itself, as well as what is actively ongoing through the effect that's occurring on that static icon. Right. So those are examples of transmitting kind of up-to-date information with activity, as well as a staple location of these effects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now you have a couple different options, so let's go through those options and
so with this one, it was working that idea that this was the compass in action, and that if we wanted to have all the objectives on the compass, that's fine, but what if it's off screen? How would it be represented in the world? We could have it where was the point being arrows being shown which way to turn your camera, so that if it was like a 180-degree arc, anything behind on the side of you or behind you would be in the wings of your UI.
And what you guys are seeing here, by the way, are very early iterations of the UI from a few months ago. Some of our PI members have had an opportunity to kind of see these in action, even in our PI test that we had with Castle Siege.
We actually had it red and purple.
Yeah.
Was it? Red and purple?
I think it was red and purple.
And don't freak out about the bottom bar. That was just me goofing around and trying to come up with a way of condensing everything into that center portion. It's not the way it's going to look.
Yeah.
These are just to give you guys an idea of how iteration occurs with these, different UI mock-ups. Very cool. Love it.
And I think you have one more. Yeah.
Is this the big one?
This is the...
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, no, I thought there was one more version of the capture point thing, but that's okay. We can talk about this.
Overhead icon stuff, yeah.
Yeah, we still... Yeah, there's...
I got that. I can come back.
We just skipped 2 things. It's fine. Let's talk about this and let's go forward.
So
let's talk about some of the MO stuff that you've been working on and how, like, the in progress.
So I've been trying to come up with a way of making it our game, so it's not like, just carbon copying every MMO that's already out there. So I was thinking about how to represent the character sheet and make your character look just as cool as possible. And what came to mind was having the camera just flip around, and the character sheet would fly in, so you could see your character live in real time, and see yourself adding armor on, and so you'd be opening up your inventory and just basically drag and dropping or right clicking or however we're going to do it, still to be determined.
Now, to give you guys context, also here what you're seeing is actually a character and zone from the Alpha 0 client. Some of you guys may be familiar with it from some of the footage we showed early on, a couple years ago. But that's what's being used here to mock up the inventory screen.
Yeah.
And this doesn't mean necessarily that this is how it's going to play out, that you're going to stop and you're going to have to, like, turn the UI, but you're just kind of showing off, like,
what it could be.
Yeah.
Right. These are just different iterations.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's very cool to see kind of, the different directions that are possible with, these designs for UI. And then you guys will get to see kind of the final quality in March. Well, not final, but still iterative. But you'll get to see the progression of the UI come March. Yeah.
Everyone's probably screenshotting me like, are these all the slots?
What are these all these things?
There's the wires happening in.
And that'll probably end up changing completely by the time we get to March.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's not going to be great.
You're all still designing, like, the itemization process and finalizing.
I'm trying to figure out how many slots we have, all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
So we're actually going to backtrack a little bit, and we're going to talk about establishing the behavior of individual elements and how that works. And you had this here to kind of depict that, so I don't know if you want to walk us through.
Sure.
That.
So during Siege, there was a moment where there was just so many icons on the screen that it kind of got overwhelming because we had them super large.
Yeah.
And I wanted to sort of rein it in a bit, and I decided to try something that many other games have tried, and that was using an icon to represent the class, and then having their instant read of their health bar on there and where they are in the world. Also some behavior, like if this player is far enough away that I can't see them, it'll disappear.
Yeah.
Or if it's if it's an enemy and it's near me and I can see him, I will be able to see his icon. So different behaviors like that. Then there's a bunch of stuff in there. The text is a little too small to read, but
Someone's screenshotting it already.
For
sure. Yeah.
hoping I didn't leave any
It's okay.
bad words in there.
No, it's okay.
Giving bad words to,
No,
to
no,
Jeff.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, so I guess kind of this kind of walks us through the process and like what you have going on, and obviously we're going to end on the inventory stuff because it's kind of like what you're trying to really tackle now.
Yeah.
Is what's that process when you get a piece of loot and how that works and where you're putting it and how it's going to look on your character.
Yeah, so it would be basically you pick it up off the ground, go into your inventory. If we go with the direction where I have the fly out in there, the inventory screen would pop up in the middle when you hit the inventory button. You'd be able to just have it right over over top of your character, and you can toggle it so it disappears or comes back up, or however we're going to do it. You would be able to drag and drop that right onto your inventory slot, and lo and behold, your character would suddenly look a lot cooler because he'd have a new item on or something.
Yeah.
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 So we're working on the process. How's it been?
It's been awesome.
Enjoying it?
I'm happy to be here.